Welcome to the Lawyerist Podcast with Sam Glover and Aaron Street. Each week, Lawyerist brings you advice and interviews to help you build a more successful law practice in today's challenging and constantly changing legal market. And now, here are Sam and Aaron.
Hi, I'm Sam Glover.
And I'm Aaron Street, and this is episode 178 of the Lawyerist Podcast, part of the Legal Talk Network. Today, we're republishing an episode with our friend Nicole Abboud about what millennials want from your law firm.
Today's podcast is brought to you by LawPay, Spotlight Branding, and New Law Business Model. We appreciate their support, and we will tell you more about them later in the show.
So for the past couple of years on the podcast, you've been hearing us talk a lot about our national conference, TBD Law. And this year we decided to rename the conference to align it with some of the other work we're doing. So TBD Law 4, or what would have been TBD Law 4, is coming up in August. It is now called LabCon, Lawyerist LabCon. And we're in the process of recruiting people to apply for an invite to LabCon 1, what would have been TBD Law 4. And we would love to hear from you if you might be interested in joining a very select group of some of the most innovative and entrepreneurial small firm lawyers in the country. If you're interested in learning more about it, you can visit our website at lawyerist.com/labcon, and you'll have to express interest in either our Lab or Lab Pro programs, since that's the path into a LabCon invite.
We hope to see you in the lab, and now we've got a brief conversation with Justin Maxwell from Smith.ai, and then we'll jump into my conversation with Nicole.
Hi, this is Justin Maxwell, the co-founder and chief design officer for Smith AI. We're a virtual receptionist and lead qualification service for attorneys.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for being with us today. So we wanted to talk about smart call routing, which is one of the features that Smith AI offers, and some virtual receptionists do, but I am not sure I understand what it is. So maybe you could start out by explaining to us what is smart call routing and why is it useful?
Sure. So in a traditional phone call setup, a call comes into your firm, and if you have a receptionist, that receptionist might answer. But for most solopreneurs or boutique firms, that call is either going directly to their cell phone or going to their voicemail. And smart call routing allows you to decide when a call is going to get to you or when it might go to a receptionist service or to another member of your team. And the criteria you could use to set that would be time of day or number of rings or certain people calling in. So the simplest way of implementing such a thing would be access or VIP lists where calls might go directly to you. And you might say like county clerks, judges, things like that get routed directly to you. Or you could also set up block lists, maybe for salespeople or clients that you don't want to work with anymore that go straight to voicemail. And a lot of phone systems have those capabilities. But when you get into the more advanced sort of things, you could say, for example, you might be very busy between 10 and 2 in the day. So calls coming in at those times could try a receptionist service instead of you. Or if you wanted to get even fancier, you could say, try your cell phone twice, but if you don't answer, try the virtual receptionist service instead.
I suppose that's a way to save money, too. If you aren't sure you always want a receptionist answering the call, then you can pick it up if you want to.
Absolutely. I mean, money saving is certainly one aspect of it, but I think for a lot of attorneys, if they're in the middle of something, they don't want to lose the opportunity to get a new client or to miss an important call. Mm-hmm. So, the $5 to $10 that they're going to spend on answering that call with a virtual receptionist service is going to pay off a lot more later with landing a new lead. So these sorts of advantages come in just in terms of time management and efficiency, as well as, like you said, saving money. Instead of having all those calls being handled by an external receptionist service, they can just filter the ones that they want.
It strikes me, though, that it can be like any toy where it's possible to overdo it. While this is happening, while it's ringing and the client is still waiting, right?
Yeah, that's a really good issue to bring up. So you're right. When calls come in, certainly it might be fun to say, okay, try me, and then try my business partner, and then try a virtual reception service. But at that point, the call might have been ringing for, 6 or 7 times, 30, 40 seconds. There's a good chance the client is hung up. So what we recommend is really only allow that person to be waiting between, 3 or 4 rings maximum before you get an actual person on the phone.
And you mentioned another option, which is to get fancy with it, kind of have a a blast ring. Is that what you called it? Where it's ringing everyone's phone at once with the idea that somebody's going to pick it up quicker if everybody has an opportunity to?
Exactly. There's two types of call routing that can be done. You can either have sequential calling, where it might try you first and then me, or you can try call blasts, where all calls ring simultaneously and the first one to pick it up claims it. And so you can do that with a virtual receptionist service as well, to say, try to ring me and the receptionist service at the same time. And if I'm just sitting there by my phone, I might pick it up. But if not, it's guaranteed the receptionist service is going to pick it up within 1 to 2 rings.
Speaking of routing, is there a way to kind of integrate a receptionist into your contact form follow-up for the form you may have on your website?
Yeah, that's the other side of the intelligent call routing, is that we can say, you know what, before these people have even called in, the lightest touch they might do is put in their information. They might have, just Googled for attorneys near me, found you. The issue's fresh in their mind, they put in their information. And so for a lot of attorneys, they're not going to get to answer those emails until the end of the day. But instead, you can just route those to a virtual receptionist service like Smith AI and have us call those people back within, a half hour or so before they've tried another attorney.
And get the follow-up information, whatever else it is that you would want from a potential client contact.
Exactly. So when the virtual receptionist service does call them back, they'll do all of the qualification and intake for you and then deliver you either a fresh lead, or alternatively, if the person isn't qualified, they can refer them, those bad leads, to another attorney, and you'll get the referral or whatever you've worked out with that attorney.
Very cool. So if you'd like to know more about smart routing and working with Smith AI, go to smith.ai. That's the address of the website, smith.ai. And you can use the coupon code LAWYERIST to get an extra $50 off of your subscription if you decide to join. Thanks so much for being with us today, Justin.
Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I am Nicole Abboud, and I am a millennial speaker, a podcaster, a former attorney, but most importantly, I am the owner of Abboud Media, which is a video branding and podcasting agency helping lawyers build their brands online. And I'm super happy to be here.
I love the feeling that, we're like, oh, there's a millennial. Like, let's go ask her about millennial things.
Yes, let's pick my brain.
Okay, but before we do that, you are a podcaster. And for the last couple of years, you had Gen Y Lawyer.
Mm-hmm, yeah, so that is still going on. That is my first podcast. It launched in March of 2015. And like you said, the Gen Y Lawyer, it's been great. It's still going on. And I just launched another show earlier this month called Leaders Love Company.
Wow.
Which is focused on a little bit. So it's not law related. It's actually business leadership focused.
And if you like this podcast and you think you might like a podcast sort of like this, but with a millennial focus, that's pretty much what Gen Y Lawyer is. It's a good podcast. Well done.
Thank you.
Which I guess is me patting myself on the back as much as you.
It was complimenting both of us. I liked it.
So, and you're helping lawyers do their own podcasting now, right?
Yes, I am. So that actually came about pretty organically, which is not something I usually say, but I launched my business earlier this year in January, and the goal was just to create videos for lawyers for marketing and branding purposes. But I started getting a lot of interest from lawyers regarding starting their own podcast, because I think they had seen that I've been doing it for a while and I'm fairly good at it. So they reached out, wanted me to help them just set it up initially. And then more and more, they wanted me to be more involved in the actual production. And then what happens after you put it up online. So yes, I incorporated that as an actual service that I offer.
Very cool. So I'm going to spring on you the question that we haven't really addressed on Lawyerist yet, which is, should lawyers podcast, right? Like Serial was huge, got everybody interested in podcasts, especially lawyers who were like, ooh, a legal podcast is the biggest thing ever. Maybe I should do one. And like, I admit, that's when we launched Lawyerist. We were like, hey, we should probably do one. And it's been good for us. But so should lawyers do it?
Yes, good question. And it's funny you haven't addressed that yet on the show. I feel like I talk about it on mine all the time. You know what? I hate to give this answer. It is the lawyer answer, and it depends. I can't definitely say yes or no, but I think it depends on a few things. So if you are a lawyer who really enjoys sharing what they know orally, so you are better at speaking than writing, and you want to dive into some kind of content creation effort, then maybe a podcast is the right way to go.
All right, that sounds good. That's
good enough. That's it.
No, keep going. Tell me the rest. I like it.
Well, I think I think most importantly, and I know a lot of people won't say this, but I think if you have the personality for it, because and not to insult any lawyers out there, but the law can be rather dry. And assuming lawyers are creating a show about the law, you really have to up the personality because that's all there is. That's all that listeners are going off of, right? Your voice. So you have to have the right personality for what you're talking about. So that's another reason. And finally, if you can dedicate the time and effort, because man, podcasting takes so much time to not just create, but to really to pick up any kind of momentum and really get listeners to buy into you and your show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the three things I'd look for.
I'm fully on board with all of those things because to me, it's a little bit reminiscent of when blogging became a thing, like 10 years ago or whatever it was. And a lot of people, me included, were like, oh yeah, of course lawyers should blog. And then what happened is a whole bunch of really shitty blogs popped up. Yeah. And nobody updated them and there wasn't anything interesting on them. And so I'm totally down with it depends.
Yeah. But you know what? At the same time, I feel bad. Like, I don't want to be the one who judges what's good and what's bad. So I feel like if I think a podcast is boring, maybe a listener thinks it's great and they find value in it. So who am I to tell the lawyer not to do it?
I think you're right. And it's like, if you think you're an interesting person and you've got kind of a character that you can play out on a podcast. And if you are compelled to produce content and audio resonates with you, then you're probably within the small minority of lawyers who actually should consider starting a podcast.
Right, exactly.
So now that since I have a captive millennial, I'm going to ask millennial questions. And I'm just going to say at the outset, I am technically a zennial, which I believe I can present my credentials as being qualified to talk to both millennials and Gen Xers.
Yes, you are in the middle. And zennial is what? Like they changed it. It's 1970.
I think it's like 77 to 83 or something like that. Yeah.
83. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was born in 1986. I feel like I'm closer to probably the zennial generation.
Wait, you may have been kicked out of the millennials? Like the whole thing is a fraud?
I know, maybe. It's very possible. I feel like it needs to go in 10-year increments, not 20. You know what I mean? Because there's such a difference. So I'm a millennial. My younger sister is 20. She's a millennial as well. But we are very different. And we've had very different experiences growing up. And we see the world so differently. So it really should be 10 years.
Which is, okay, so like part of, I want to call bullshit on the whole millennial thing because... It's a range of experiences and things, but if we're just going to go with it, like what is a millennial? Like what are the characteristics of that generation or the shared experiences that give it its qualities that make us give it a name?
Mm-hmm. What is it? Okay, so millennials are defined. So it's either millennial or Gen Y, Generation Y, and they are individuals born between 1980 and 2000, roughly, right? That's the time limit they gave it. The general characteristics, I would say, we are very diverse. We are highly educated, right? We grew up, our parents stressed the importance of getting a good education. We believe that having more degrees meant more opportunities. We are digital natives, which means we are comfortable with technology because we kind of grew up with it for the most part. Those are kind of the big defining characteristics that are probably the most relevant for this conversation.
And okay, so like, the reason I think we're all talking about millennials now is that apparently like 5 years ago or so when millennials started entering the workforce, nobody noticed. But now like all of a sudden everybody's freaked out by, oh my God, these millennials are so hard to work with. They're so hard to manage, or the clients have different expectations. Part of the reason why I think the whole thing is a little bit bullshit is because people are just like, oh my God, my clients want something different than they did 10 years ago, which is true all the time. Mm-hmm. But let's kind of address that. Like, so when it comes to clients who are millennials, who now have enough money and legal problems that they are encountering lawyers, can we like pull out some qualities that help us identify what clients who are millennials want from their lawyers? And so on the other side, what lawyers need to do to serve that client base?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it. And but just I guess quickly to address what you just said. So you calling bullshit on it, I half agree with it. I can't just let it go because Fair. I agree. I think that there are a lot of just changes in society in general, and I don't know if we can necessarily attribute them to the millennials. It could just be, I don't know, changes, right? Things change all the time. But I also can't discredit or discount what the millennials are bringing to the workplace as well. So all these experiences we had growing up, we are bringing it with us, and that's changing the workplace culture, I suppose.
I guess what I think is it is not the fact that, some range of years tends to define a generation. It's more that like, I think everybody whining about millennials is bullshit because I think it is a fact that society and culture changes all the time. And our job is not to be grumpy and object to that, but to just roll with it. So I guess it's not the millennials. It's the thing.
Agree. So sorry for talking over you. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think whining about anything is bullshit. And I feel like that should be the title of this show. But you're right. It's adapting. Like, this is the message that I'm hoping people take away from this. As a law firm, as a lawyer, you need to adapt and change. And whether that means acknowledging the young generation of employees that are in your firm and recognizing what they bring to the table, or just acknowledging what's happening with technology and in society and adapting as well. So it doesn't matter what generation is the latest one to come into your firm. You need to change. You need to adapt and be malleable.
Yeah. So that said, when a millennial walks into your firm, what do they want?
Yeah. So I've kind of identified a few things that millennials look for when they're looking to hire an attorney. And I think the most obvious and probably one of the most important ones is the fact that you, as a lawyer or as a law firm, exist online. Right. So more than likely, millennials, and I would imagine most people in general, are going to turn online first to search for answers to their legal questions, any kind of legal issue they might have. And the fact that there's so much information online, you know that they're going on Google and typing in whatever issue they're having. So you want to be that lawyer who shows up with the answer, who is providing that solution to them before they even know who you are, before they even meet you. So first of all, be online. So have a website. Have a social media presence, right? I would argue that's even more important than a website in some regards, right? Because with social media, you can actually be engaged and communicate and have a conversation with potential clients, which I know is risky territory for a lot of lawyers. But be engaged online and just exist. So that's the first thing.
I think what I hear you saying there is that your social media presence, your online presence is a normal part of who a person is in 2017. And so we should be a little bit alarmed at the eye-gougingly huge percentage of lawyers who don't even have a Facebook profile.
Yes.
They don't exist.
It's true. And I feel that, right. And I think some lawyers can still get away with it because maybe they've been practicing for so long, they have their book of business, they're good. But I think for new lawyers coming in, or those who have been practicing for a little while, you need to have some kind of presence because it's an extension of who you are. And it's a way for you to build relationships when you're not able to go to a networking event 5 times a week, for example. You can build a relationship online when you're just at home, right? Or still in the office. So yeah, it's definitely an extension of who you are and an extension of your brand.
When you're contemplating a lawyer as a millennial or you're building relationships, it feels pretty weird when somebody is just not on social media or doesn't have an online presence.
Yeah, it definitely is. If somehow someone gets a hold of your name and they go and Google you. So actually that's the thing. A lot of lawyers say, I get all my clients from referrals, word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And I always say, okay, that's great. But I'm sure when someone refers a friend to a lawyer, that friend is going to go look you up regardless. You know, they're not just going to call you blindly.
I suppose, and like if a lawyer's listening and going, but I don't really have any millennial clients, the answer is probably that they're trying to find you, and what they're finding is that you don't really exist online, and so they're going somewhere else.
Exactly. And you know, we are quickly becoming, if we haven't already, the largest generation in America. So more than likely you are going to have a millennial client at some point because you're going to run out of clients in the other generations.
Mm-hmm. Eventually they'll give up and come to you anyway.
That's true. So yeah, be available, be present, and be engaged online. So don't just have a profile, but post on your Facebook, right? Post relevant content, post your thoughts, post a blog article that you might have written, show that you're active. That's definitely important.
So I've heard that your people, being the millennials, place a lot of emphasis on sort of authenticity and bringing your whole self to your online presence, to your workplace, and so I notice a lot of lawyers have a very sort of advertising-y presence online, and that doesn't seem to be the right way to be online to me.
No, not at all. So for some reason, we just have an aversion to sales in general. If we feel like someone is trying to sell to us, it's going to turn us off. It's going to shut us down. We're not going to want to work with that person. Mm-hmm. So with that said, and relating to the authenticity hot topic, I guess, or the buzzword nowadays, it's important for a lawyer to just be themselves, to try to show some personality in whatever they're doing online or in their or on their website. And I think that is easier said than done, because obviously we have ethical rules. A lot of lawyers worry that if they show that they're having a drink on the weekend, that's going to ruin their credibility, or it's going to make them look less professional. And of course, you need to use common sense in what you're posting. Don't show that you're doing a keg stand or like, you know what I mean, going to a party on the weekend. But you know what? If you're grabbing a drink with a friend over the weekend, that's okay. I mean, that's what people do. We are human after all. And more than likely, someone's going to relate to that. A potential client might relate to the fact that you drink a certain wine, or you have a certain dog because you post a picture of you walking your dog. You know what I mean? Like, that's the human element of being a lawyer.
Don't be a cardboard cutout online, basically.
Exactly.
So, so when it comes to other ways that you might structure the relationship, let's talk about, like, say, does the nature of what millennials want and need suggest anything about the way that lawyers and clients might want to work together?
Yes. So another thing that millennials value is collaboration. So even as a client, millennials want to feel like they are involved in the process, in the legal process, whatever they are reaching out to you for help with. And because, again, information is so readily available, this may or may not be a good thing, but a lot of clients come with some knowledge of what needs to happen, which, again, is not always the best thing, because then lawyers have to undo what they've learned if they've learned incorrectly. But as millennials, we want to feel like we know what's happening with our case, right? We want to be able to access information about our matter kind of at all hours of the day. Which doesn't mean that lawyers need to always be available and picking up their phone calls or responding to emails, but it does mean that they need to set up some online portal or some way for clients to be able to go in, check what's happening, get the peace of mind that they need, and just handle what they need to handle without wondering what's going on with my case. I haven't heard from my lawyer in a few weeks. So yeah, there definitely needs to be some kind of collaborative element with representing a millennial.
I analogize this. This resonates with me, and I think it sounds similar to, like, if I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I can't stop my mind from racing, I may, pull Facebook down to refresh it a few times. And there's nothing probably new happening on Facebook at 1:30 in the morning, but Facebook gives me something to do that tickles that endorphin or whatever it is. And I think what you're saying is lawyers need to find a way to let your clients check in some way, even if it's 3 a.m.
Yeah, they kind of do. Because for you, it's just being bored, or maybe it's insomnia. But for someone who has some kind of, who find themselves in litigation, it's just stress and concern. So if you can do something to ease that, then you definitely should.
That sounds like nobody, even the most unreasonable millennial, probably expects you to personally respond to an email at 3 a.m. But my guess is this isn't always on. I mean, the world is always on right now. We all have notifications all the time. There's no excuse for giving people, like, I will return to your message in 2 days autoresponder or something, right?
I mean, so I think that depends on the lawyer. I know that a lot of lawyers worry about boundaries and work-life balance and all that, and I understand that. So if you are someone who is not comfortable appearing like you're always available, then that is a decision you can make. But again, there's software, there are services out there that can help you automate a lot of these things and set up the portals and make it appear like you are responding, or at least letting them know that you'll get back to them soon without you physically doing it.
Lots of lawyers seem to be hypothesizing that, every practice should be virtual and we should be communicating, via text message or email or secure portals or whatever. And that's how everything is going. Do you feel like your people, I'm going to keep saying your people because it makes me chuckle.
I don't know if I should feel insulted. I'm like, my people? All right, let's go with it.
Do you think your people have expectations about the channel of communication, let's say?
You know what? I don't think they do. I think it varies. And it depends on each client individually, even among the millennial generation. So I think the lawyer should just ask their client when they are onboarding them, just ask them, how do you want to be communicated with? Do you prefer text message? Do you actually want to take a phone call? Do you just want email? So just find out what they want, and it'll vary. I mean, I'm a millennial, but I actually really do like talking on the phone.
That kind of goes back to your saying collaborate, right? Like, work with your client, try and shape the representation to what they're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. So don't just assume, but ask them.
So we need to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. And after that, we'll be back with part 2 about whining about anything is bullshit.
Did you know that attorneys who accept online payments get paid 39% faster on average than those using traditional payment methods? With LawPay, the only payment solution offered through the ABA Advantage program, you can accept client payments online, via email, or in person. No equipment needed. Visit lawpay.com/lawyerist to sign up and get your first 3 months free. Trust the only payment solution developed for attorneys and recommended by 47 state bars. LawPay.
The legal environment is more competitive than ever, and small law firms are feeling the pinch. With over 1.3 million attorneys in the United States and counting, it can be hard to stand out from the crowd. That's why Spotlight Branding helps lawyers become unforgettable. Spotlight Branding is a different kind of internet marketing company. They don't put their clients on the SEO hamster wheel. They don't ask them to burn thousands of dollars on speculative pay-per-click advertising. Instead, they're focused on the fundamentals of legal marketing that have worked for centuries. They use the internet to build a premium brand for solo and small firm lawyers. They put systems in place to create top-of-mind awareness, allowing their clients to maximize referrals and repeat business. It's the smart way to grow your law firm. Learn more at spotlightbranding.com/lawyerist.
If you've ever considered doing estate planning but think it's too dry and boring, or have been afraid it might not earn you what you need because you have to compete against LegalZoom or the dreaded $1,500 estate plans, check out the website estateplanningsrules.com to get a free guide that lays out step-by-step how some lawyers are regularly commanding average fees of $4,000 to $5,000 per estate plan, and you'll discover why regular, everyday people are happy to pay well for estate planning services that you'll love to provide. That's estateplanningsrules.com, brought to you by New Law Business Model, where you get to love being a lawyer again.
Hey, one more thing before we get back to the conversation. If you haven't already taken the small firm scorecard and you are a solo or small firm lawyer, do it now at go.lawyerist.com/scorecard. Look, you listen to this podcast, so you must know the practice of law is changing in important ways. And sooner or later, you are going to feel the effects of those changes in your practice if you aren't feeling them already. So, what's your plan? If you are like most of the lawyers we've met over the years, even if you understand the trends shaping the past, present, and future of law practice, you probably don't have a plan. You may not even be sure where to start. So that's why we put together the Small Firm Scorecard, to help lawyers understand what they need to do to position their firm to be successful in the future. It's a free self-assessment. 50 questions for small firms, 40 for solos. The questions cover your goals, strategy, systems, marketing, client service model, finances, and people and staffing. It only takes about 10 minutes, and at the end, you'll know exactly what you need to work on based on your own assessment of how you're doing on each item. Like I said, it's free, it takes about 10 minutes, and you'll end up with a to-do list to prepare your firm for the future. So take it now at go.lawyerist.com/scorecard. Okay, we're back. And okay, so we've been talking about what millennials clients want from their lawyers, and I'm sure we just scratched the surface of it. But let's flip that, because many of us have to work in the world, and as we started out with, millennials are now real people who have jobs and things. So they're not all trying to be YouTube celebrities or living the van life. So those who aren't,
you want to do that.
I follow van life on Instagram.
Nice.
It's like my dream. Bring a van big enough for the kids, but.
I join you.
So how do we take these characteristics and apply them to the workplace? Like if you have employees or a boss or just a colleague, what are say the 3 or 4 things that millennials are going to value in their working life?
So I guess before we talk about the 3 things they value, I think it's important to just address why we should care at all. So the lawyers who have employees working for them or who are in a hiring position, you're probably wondering, why should I even care? I've been doing this for a while. I know how to hire. Again, we need to acknowledge that there are some differences in this generation, and they're good, right? There are some good, valuable characteristics that you want to bring into your law firm. So recognizing that we are the largest generation in the workforce, that you might be in a position to start planning for your law firm succession, recognizing that there's so much talent to be harnessed in this generation is important, right? So starting there is good. But I think what millennial colleagues of yours or your employees, what they value is flexibility. That's probably the biggest one. So flexibility in terms of the schedule. So that's the obvious one. Being able to, it's offering your employees the option to work, to not always be in the office to do their work, right? Working remotely. There's technology. So now it's possible to actually have FaceTime, to do your work and be engaged when you're not necessarily physically in an office. And also, I think flexibility in decision making. So just acknowledging that millennial employees, even though they are new lawyers and maybe they don't understand, they don't have as much experience being a lawyer, they still came in with some kind of marketable skill or some kind of knowledge that you should really tap into to make your law firm better.
I mean, there's collaboration again almost. It's, you don't just have a hierarchical structure where the boss bosses people around and you don't ever solicit feedback from the underlings. It's more like, invite people to be part of a team, not just a minion.
Exactly. And I feel like that is how it should be, right? I think that more law firms should be that way because they have been so hierarchical for so long. And we see that that's not necessarily sitting well with the millennials. So there's a lot of tension. But I would imagine everyone in the law firm would benefit if they felt like they actually were valued and they were being heard and their ideas were listened to. And whether they're good or not, that's a different story. But at least acknowledge that these people have ideas and it could help.
Yeah, Aaron said recently about a conversation he was overhearing that about all the demands millennials have. Somebody a Gen Xer said, "Well, I want all that stuff too. I just didn't know I could ask for it." Well, maybe
exactly.
Millennials are just smarter.
I don't know about that. It's just again,
more education anyway.
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah. No, it's just the culture that we grew up in. I don't know what it is that makes us more vocal about what we actually want. But if you grew up feeling like you couldn't ask for what you wanted, it's going to be more difficult to do so. So I can see why Gen Xers just didn't. But yeah, just being vocal about what you want. And of course, as a millennial, use common sense as to regarding what you're asking for, right? So I think there's a line that can be crossed by any employee in terms of asking for exactly what they want for. But
right.
Again, that's where common sense comes in.
Well, there are too demanding people who are too demanding in every generation. So
yeah. That is true. So another thing that millennial employees look for is feedback. So that is really important. And I know a lot of law firms usually have some kind of annual review or biannual review, and that might not be sufficient anymore. Mm-hmm. So millennials really want to know how they're doing along the way. If they're working on a project or on a case, they want pretty consistent feedback. Now, that doesn't mean every single day or every hour you have to check in and tell them, oh, you're doing a great job, keep it up. Not at all. But set some kind of timestamp or marks of when you as an employer, as the supervisor, want to go in and give this employee feedback, whether it's positive or critical, and let them know how they're doing, because they would hate to be working on something incorrectly for a long period of time only to get that annual review and then not have time to adjust or shift.
I'm sorry. I think I've heard you say in the past that that desire for constant ongoing feedback, it feels a little bit like, you post something on Instagram and people immediately let you know if they like it, right? Like, so you're used to hearing instantly the effect of the things that you do.
Yeah, that's true. But also I think, sorry, let me take back all that. Also, I think that just feeling heard is what it comes down to. So if an employer is giving this feedback and we being the millennial employees are able to respond and collaborate on what it is that they want or they expect from us, then we feel like we're being heard, right? So we're expressing what we thought went right, what we thought went wrong, how we can improve. And it's not just a guessing game of what we think they want. They're telling us what they want and we either agree with it or don't, and we can adjust.
Well, and as you said, from the employer perspective, like, why wait a year to tell somebody they've been doing something wrong? Why wait a month? Why wait a week? If somebody can improve, tell them right away. And if they've done a good job, why wouldn't you pat them on the back right away and give them some more motivation? Seems like
exactly.
Sense. Yeah.
Right. And it boosts morale. And again, it doesn't even have to be something so formal and stiff. You know what I mean? Like just dropping into the office of your employees, regardless of how old they are or what generation they're from, just drop in there and talk to them, check in on them every once in a while, ask them how they're doing, how their family is doing, what's going on in their lives. I think now we're going into a different conversation, but again, it's just actually talking to your employees and hearing them out.
So, and maybe this is kind of where that was going, but I've heard some of your people talk about bringing their whole selves to work and that being a really important thing. Like, is that seriously important that if I'm going to hire a lawyer, I have to be comfortable with them having purple hair and nose rings?
Oh, that is a good question.
Yes is an okay answer, I think, actually. But
I get okay, right? So that is not what I think of when I think of bring your whole self, and maybe because I've never had purple hair and a ring. But for me, it's more of, is your employee comfortable enough feeling like themselves and just being comfortable being who they are and letting that be sufficient, if that makes sense. So I guess to tie it back to my experience, when I was practicing, the first few months were obviously a little bit tough because there was a learning curve. I was new to the profession. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But at the same time, I felt like I had to change my personality to fit the mold of what a good lawyer, what a great lawyer should be like. And I think had my employer just told me, you know what, you have a great personality, you're going to do fine, just be you. I mean, that could have changed things, but I stopped working there, so that should tell you something. But that's what I hear when I think of bring your whole self. Like, you are okay as you are. You don't have to change to fit any kind of stereotype. But also, if you have purple hair but you're a kick-ass lawyer, like, why does it matter? Well, assuming you're not going to court, it shouldn't matter either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just outward appearance.
I think you have to take to heart the idea that that's not actually a characteristic that matters for your ability to do your job, then don't worry about it.
Yeah. So you phrased that much more eloquently than I did. But yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
It's like a mansplaining win for the day.
I'll give you that one.
So we've been kind of shaping this whole conversation around a presentation that you gave at the Clio Cloud conference this year. So I've just revealed that we're cheating by using an existing outline, I guess. But you also mentioned growth opportunities as a really important thing that millennials are looking for. Yes,
exactly. So just being able to offer any kind of training, any kind of CLE, as in paying for your employees to attend CLE trainings and conferences, offering in-house opportunities, of course, the whole mentorship, so mentor-mentee relationships, if you can establish some kind of program there, but always focusing on the growth of the individual lawyer, because as a millennial, that is something we really value. We want to continually grow. And that doesn't mean we want to leave the firm because we've outgrown it, because if the firm is taking care of us, we're going to feel that sense of loyalty. Yeah. And one way to take care of us is to continually help us improve. So yeah, any kind of programs that will help them become not just better lawyers, but I guess better human beings, better business developers, right? Just better people.
I think that's a challenging one because I remember, when I started out as a lawyer, one of my friends who was working at a firm was struck by the realization that her last day practicing law was probably going to look a lot like her first day. We do similar work for 20, 30, 40 years and then quit. And that doesn't automatically suggest a lot of growth opportunities, but the market is changing. And when I see newer firms, they have stated missions and values, and you can rally a team around your mission and values. They've got different jobs than just you will sit here and clock hours churning paperwork. That isn't necessarily what newer firms look like. And so I think firms that are already responding to the way the market has changed are also responding to the need for growth opportunities, whether they're doing it deliberately or not.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to that conversation about the hierarchy. I think the pyramid within a law firm the leadership pyramid really should be more flattened out. And employers should give employees opportunities to build their skills, but not just as lawyers. So again, just allowing them to start that blog that's eventually going to bring in a new client, right? So it's empowering them to take initiative and do something that's not just their legal work. Because again, these lawyers are miserable if that's all they're doing, right? And there's a reason why we have such a high rate of substance abuse in the profession and so many leave the profession. It's because if that's all they're doing, any human being is going to crack. You know what I mean? Like we need some kind of outlet. So giving your employees that outlet, whether it's even taking them out for an activity on the weekend, you know what I mean? Like those kind of things.
So at the very beginning, I think we mentioned digital nativeness, nativity.
Nativity.
That's
sure.
a different thing.
Yeah.
And often I think when people hear millennials, they're like, they automatically go, oh, I'm not tech savvy enough to deal with millennials or something. Is that actually a thing?
I don't know anymore. I feel like everyone knows how to work a smartphone, and that's really all there is to it. No, I mean, I remember in high school, I took a keyboarding class where Mavis Beacon taught me how to type, right? And I feel like now kids who are 5 years old can type faster than I am. So you learn as you grow. But also, like, technology is out there and everyone has access to it. So it's not like we have some secrets that baby boomers don't or Gen Xers don't, right? So maybe we understand it a little bit faster, but it doesn't mean that anyone else can't pick up on it or learn it just as well. And there are so many Gen Xers and baby boomers who are totally kicking my ass online. So it doesn't, you know what I mean, on Facebook and Instagram. So I don't think that means anything.
Maybe it's you need to be tech savvy at the level of a normal human being moving through the world in 2017.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's actually a requirement, right? I think that's one of the ABA model rules.
One would hope.
Yes.
We've been fighting about that.
And you know what? It's crazy to see lawyers who are resisting this, because it is so much fun. I mean, aside from the fact that it's great for business and it's building your brand, the people you get to meet online that you cannot meet in person because they are across the country, across the world, are phenomenal people. So the fact that you are not meeting them by not being online, you're really missing out on building amazing relationships. So it's fun. It's not just for business.
Well, let's circle back to the beginning where I kind of tried to call bullshit, and then you called bullshit on my bullshit. But
it's the inception of bullshit.
None of the it just keeps going. None of these things are crazy, unreasonable stuff. Mm-hmm. Aren't these all just things that are more important to millennials and that we all wish we would have thought to raise and insist on earlier?
Yes. And I feel like we can't spread that rumor, because then no one will invite me to speak at conferences.
And now we've arrived at my devious plan.
I know, right? No, and I kind of told you before we started, I don't consider myself a millennial expert. I just think these are just regular human commonsensical things. And I don't know if I'm just very in tune to these things, but you're right. Like, it's not something just millennials want. It's something everyone wants. Every employee wants to feel like they belong. They don't want to hate their lives when they go to work. They want flexibility, right? They want to be able to see their kids and go to soccer games. Everyone wants to grow. And again, if a particular person doesn't, it doesn't mean that's reflective of the whole generation. It's just that person doesn't want flexibility. They want to be in the office all the time. So yeah, these are just general human needs that we all want as employees.
Well, that said, I'm glad you made the expedition from Millennial Land to tell us about your people.
It was far. It was a far journey.
If people want to know more about you and what you're up to, where should they go?
Sure. So I think the best website to visit is abboudmedia.com. So that is my business. You can find out more about what I do. But on Instagram is where I love to share behind the scenes of my life. So now that I'm not practicing anymore, I talk about what I'm doing to build my business. I talk about leadership. So my Instagram handle is at Nic_Abboud. So it's NIC_ABBOUD.
And if you don't understand Instagram or stories, Nicole's Instagram is like a 101 course on how to do it. So not by example, not because it's an instructional thing, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Nicole, thanks so much for being with us today. I really enjoyed this podcast.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Make sure to catch next week's episode of the Lawyerist Podcast by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast app. And please leave a rating to help other people find our show. You can find the notes for today's episode on lawyerist.com/podcast.
The Lawyerist Podcast is produced with help from Lindsay Calhoun and edited by Paul Fisher. The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not endorsed by Legal Talk Network. Nothing said in this podcast is legal advice for you.